Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
A very good morning and welcome. This is Newsline. As you can see, I am not Faraz Shaukatali. I am Ramesh Irugalbandara, in for Faraz for the next couple of days. Well, the no confidence motion against the Prime Minister is just around the corner, and the political developments in the country are taking a turn. So, this morning we have with us Attorney at Law Gomin Dayatri to talk about the latest political developments and what could happen eventually in the future as well. So without further ado, good morning, Mr. Gomin.
Good morning, and nice to see a man in tight and embraces.
Thank you very much. So let's get down to business. First of all, I wanted to talk with you about the no confidence motion and the 19th Amendment, but there was a development yesterday with the political front. A special gazette was issued removing the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the Securities and Exchange Commission from under the purview of the Prime Minister's ministry. What are your thoughts on this new move?
I think it's a new move by the President, and the President is acting in a way which I can't find some difficulty in comprehending, because on one hand he's spending too much time abroad. Now that is the conduct of a loser who's probably on a travelling mood and just signing pieces of paper all over the world of worthless value. But back in Sri Lanka, he's going both against the wrongdoers on part of the UNP and the SLFP. I think he will be remembered as a Prime Minister, as a President in history more than in present times, because contemporaneously he may not be great. And I think the fact is he should stay in the island, he should spend less time with his travelling circus, but stay in Sri Lanka and do what is necessary, put the country back into order.
But isn't it important for a state leader to go out to other countries and build bilateral relationships?
It is important, but when critical things are, when it's critical time in Sri Lanka, just sign in some silly pieces of paper which you will get the same benefits whether you're there at signature time or otherwise, I think is a waste of time. And I think that is the attitude of a loser. Loser likes to be, remember he lost Polonnaruwa, and he may not be so confident of himself, so therefore he's in a troubling mood, he's getting around with his cronies and just seeing the world.
Right. Let's get over to the no confidence motion that is being brought against the Prime Minister on the 4th of April. Now, at the party leaders meeting yesterday, it was decided that the 4th of April, the debate will be held from 10 a.m. in the morning to 9:30 p.m. and then afterwards the vote will be held. So, first question, how many votes does the Prime Minister need to secure to win this no confidence motion?
That's a very controversial question. I like to answer it directly. You see, we have two documents to look at. One is the Constitution, other is the other standing orders. Now, if you examine both, what is there is the fact that in the Constitution there's specific provision when a two-third majority is required. You have a number and you have a number of members present. Otherwise, what is a stand? Standing order says that you must follow the rules in the House of Commons. And also there are rules in Sri Lanka. The best rule is when Mrs. Bandaranaike lost the ANCL bill, she immediately went to the country. I think the majority was something very small, 3 or 4 people said they should ask for a vote. No, the lady went and had an election, lost it badly, and came back 5 years later. So I think what is important is that the people's choice should be given place of eminence, and that has been completely banished by the 19th Amendment. 19th Amendment prevents the people from exercising a vote in choosing who their leader should be when one leader is, if in fact Ranil Wickremesinghe a loser. Now, I think Ranil Wickremesinghe is a loser either way. He will lose in the parliament, but I think he'll win that vote on condition that he ensures that there is succession in the UNP very soon, and that he will help in selecting the successor.
So you are saying that Ranil Wickremesinghe has a possibility of winning the no confidence motion if he appoints a successor to the United National Party?
I would think that the committee may suggest that if he assists in finding a successor. That means a more peaceful, more gentle transition. Maybe the UNP will vote in force, and maybe the SLP guys also will vote. We live in only the JO, and remember, joint opposition is also acting queer. Mahinda Rajapaksa, who should be leading the battle, stays out of all this. He doesn't sign the resolution. Why didn't he sign? It's not the first time. Every time he has not signed. So I think Mahinda Rajapaksa has very good reason for not signing, because he finds his best opponent, the easiest man to defeat at the next coming election would be Ranil Wickremesinghe. And that is exactly what the UNP doesn't want. So we might have a joint opposition wanting Ranil Wickremesinghe continue to office, but purely carrying out a function of the opposition, while the government might find this a wonderful opportunity to make a move, to allow Ranil to win this, but make Ranil abide by their decision of a quick, fast change.
But I'm going to hold you to that question. What do you think is the figure that is needed for the Prime Minister to win? Because we are hearing a lot of statements being made about 113 votes being needed to secure his victory.
I think he needs a simple majority. It doesn't matter who the numbers are in Parliament, because that is not specified. You have to follow the rules in the House of Commons. And remember, we had a precedent in Sri Lanka when Mrs. Bandaranaike lost and went to polls, and she didn't have the number there because some of the ministers were members of Parliament of her team were not present. One person in fact said he had a car puncture on the way. So I think numbers don't matter. It is a simple majority of one that is required.
So +1 on either side wins the vote.
You're spot on.
Right. Now, hypothetically, if the Prime Minister loses this no confidence motion, what will happen to the government?
A very funny question, which requires an equally hilarious answer, because Prime Minister, if he loses confidence, should no longer remain as Prime Minister. He has to leave. The whole purpose of having resolutions in Parliament of no confidence is the man must resign. Now, Ravi Karunanika avoided it by resigning early. But if the Prime Minister is defeated, I think as a parliamentarian, I have no doubt he'll resign or he will leave office, or the government and the opposition will see he no longer heads the Parliament. But we got a funny situation, because under the 19th Amendment, I'm now speaking to those good governance kids who somehow I know are hiding in the JVP tent. But where are you? What are you doing? It's your 19th Amendment that is causing chaos, because you took away the right of the franchise. The people had the right to vote all the time. Elect the people, because it was possible for the President to resolve Parliament on a defeat of the Prime Minister or the government on a no confidence motion, which he cannot do now. He has to go on for 4 years and 6 months. And it's a question of musical chairs. You get rid of one man, then you got to pick another, and continue within the same parliament, with the same parliamentarians. Now, if you remember, there was the 19th Amendment case. I was the petitioner. I was the first petitioner. The name of the case was Dayasri vs. State. And I urged this. I pressed this very hard, that the franchise of the people is being taken off. Now, when that happens, I expected a decision. Now, I am quite prepared to take any decision that the Supreme Court gives, because with their deep sense of justice, they would have come to a reason, and they would have given a reason. You can't just say, I take the view, but you must give reasons for the view. So reasons can be accepted, reasons can be challenged, not in court, but it can be challenged in discussions, in articles. But do you know the strangest thing? I blame him. Justice Siripavan, the Chief Justice, did not answer that question. He did not say, yes, your main submission is correct, or nor did he say it was wrong. I would have liked him saying wrong and giving reasons. He just couldn't give reasons, because it's quite clear. The franchise of the people they were being disenfranchised for 4.5 years.
So you're saying that because of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, the mandate of the people is going away. Are you saying this because the President no longer has the power to dissolve Parliament in case of a no confidence motion until 4.5 years lapses?
Yes, he has no choice. And who is the loser? He may be the gain. Remember, he has a 5-year term. He is not affected. But all the parliamentarians are affected because they, remember, have to wait 5 years to qualify for a pension. Remember, that's important. And I blame, the man who should be blamed most is Justice Siri Pavan, who didn't say yes or no.
So, getting back to the question, if the Prime Minister hypothetically loses the no confidence motion, what happens to the cabinet of ministers? What happens to the government? Does the President have the power to reorganize the government, reshuffle the heads and put in a new government?
Good question. What the President should do is, or what the opposition should do, is to bring a resolution with a named person to be the head of the government. That will be the necessary consequence in the interest of democracy, where no elections are held. Mind you, this is a situation, no elections, no by-elections also. So you don't know what the thinking of the people is. Are they going to go on the local government elections, which was more protest vote against the government than a vote against the government, or vote in favor of the joint opposition? No, you don't have a chance, because this constitution, first the Judge Avardhan's constitution did away with the by-elections, and now comes this stupid good governance kids, or the good governance team who have gone underground now, or hiding under JVP cover. We don't have any election. We have lost our franchise for 4.5 years, but the President is a victim. President has nothing to do. He has to keep to the 19th Amendment and not hold any kind of election or dissolve Parliament. He is prohibited from doing so.
So say the President actually wants to dissolve Parliament after no confidence motion loss to the Prime Minister, hypothetically. What needs to be done? Isn't there any way that Parliament could ask for Parliament to be dissolved?
No, they can only do if 2/3 of the members vote. Now, do you think any member of Parliament would like his lifespan in Parliament to be deprived of even by 6 months?
That is a very interesting question.
Because that is tied up to the pension. Now, this is why I say that this constitution was not done by the UNP, not done by the SLFP, but by some lawyer who has changed sides from the LSSP to the UNP. So we are in a very dangerous situation, and I think it's only the Supreme Court who had the courage. If they had the courage, as they now do. Now we have an excellent Supreme Court, but at that time we had a weak man at the top, and he dodged the question, evaded it. I'm the one who pressed it. I can remember pressing it for 2 hours in court, over and over again. Other counsel followed me doing the same. But what did the Chief Justice do? I think he got butterfingers.
Right. Now you mentioned about the local government elections. We have a lot to talk about the local government elections system, because we are currently seeing a bit of chaos in forming the local government bodies as well. We will get to that in a short while from now, but for now we go in for a short commercial break. We'll be back on the other side of this.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back. This is Newsline. I'm Ramesh Irugalbandara. With me this morning is Attorney at Law Gomin Dashri. Now, before we left off, Mr. Gomin, we were briefly talking about the local government elections and the results of it. Now we see chairpersons, mayors being appointed to these local government bodies. And this appointment of the chairpersons is also a bit of a mess, because you see one party securing a slim majority in the local government body, but losing power to another party. This we mainly saw with the United National Party losing power to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, the Flower Bud Party. Do you think that this local government election system is flawed?
It is flawed from the beginning. I think it is flawed most at the point where women have to get 25% representation. I mean, as expected, women didn't vote for women. It's very unlikely that women vote for women alone or exclusively. That didn't happen, and I don't think it will ever happen, because I know from my experience, unlike men, you might call me a male chauvinistic pig, but I've got to say this, women are more subjective than men. So you did.
That sounds a bit sexist, Mr. Gomin.
I know, I'm sorry I got to say it, because I find that wherever men are, they give a better opportunity to to everybody rather than if women get into help. Now remember, women are at the top in every profession, whether it's medical, whether it's legal, whether it's judicial. We have a president, first women president, the first prime minister, we have the first chief justice, we have the first income tax commissioner, we have everybody women. But when it comes to parliament, why don't the women vote for women? Because the point is, you can't, the 25% mark has not been obtained. Women don't elect, they are selected. So that is flawed. What this whole constitution is on the basis of election, not selection, not on basis of mathematical calculations or statistics. So that is why I blame women, because women are almost 50% as men in the voting field, but when they vote, they can't even get 25 of them to elect a member of parliament. Let's forget that for the moment.
With regard to the appointment,
your question. I think this is an absolutely first-class opportunity for people to buy and sell their office.
Exactly what I was getting at.
Now you would see that the two parties, such people like Champika Ranawaka, SLMC, I mean, the things they've been saying before the election and after the election are so contradictory. You don't know where they are. I don't know where they are, because sometimes they vote with the government, sometimes they vote with the opposition. And we've heard this being said, that today members can be bought. I don't know the correctness of it, but if so, there is opportunity now to make that allegation more strenuously.
We saw very ugly scenes coming in from the Muskelia Pradesh Sabha yesterday, where the CWC secured power from the United National Party, and the allegation was that one of the UNP members had received some money when she revealed to the media that she had experienced a chest pain and gone to hospital to hospitalize herself. We do not know which claim is true, but these are the sort of situations that we see coming out of these local government bodies at present.
I quite agree with you. Even if it is not correct, this kind of speculation is bad for the democracy, bad for the system of elections. Now, especially at a time when elections are not being held for 4.5 years, and even by-elections are not held at any time. So you are, what is the franchise? People have lost the franchise, I would say, by the 19th Amendment. And these are the 19, who created all this? Those people who are asking for good governance. And with whom are they now? Most of them seem to, when I saw the last advertisement, I was shocked. They are taking cover under the JVP, a party that was hardly democratic many years ago.
Now, I want to shift our attention a bit to the fraud and corruption side, because another topic that is dominating the political discourse at the moment is the amendments that are suggested to be made to the Judicature Act. More specifically, the appointment of a new High Court with a 3-judge bench to prosecute special cases of corruption and fraud. Mr. Gomin, what is your opinion on the appointment, if this appointment goes through? What is your opinion on it?
Well, I think special situations like corruption and bribery need special circumstances and fast action. People are unhappy if they get dragged. This government is going to lose this election because they have been far too slow with corruption and bribery, which they said was their main team, but they failed to pick the people, because I think there are horse deals, a lot of horse deals behind the scene. Nevertheless, this is, I don't think it's venom, it's political vendetta, as Professor Piri says. Professor Piri, I cannot take him seriously after he became a politician. I mean, he's not only a politician.
You're speaking of Professor G.L. Piri.
G.L. Piri, I think he's a sissy politician, and he has said it's political vendetta. I don't think. I think it is to put it in fast forward mode. And that is what the people want. People want whoever it is brought to trial, not found guilty. Many of those whom they accuse may be found not guilty, and there are those who have not got charges who are, you see, remember President Sirisena appointed persons who are not elected, but appointed them as ministers. Some of them have charges, they are not being taken. So those are matters that the people can take up, because these gentlemen who have to be brought to court should be brought to court on a fast basis. But the judiciary, as I said, has improved beyond. If there's one branch that we can all look up to now, it's the judiciary. especially after the retirement of Justice Sipawan. We have a very good judiciary, and even the present Chief Justice is doing well in his own field, and I must say I'm very happy with them. And if as long as the judges are correct, judges are positive, judges are absolutely looks at justice and order, I think we need law and order, and that is going to be the forefront issue in the next election, justice and order.
Now you said we can all look up to the judiciary, that it is mostly independent at this moment, but there is a issue with regard to how cases are brought into this High Court. Now, according to the amendments that have been suggested, the power of bringing these cases before the High Court lies with, one, the Attorney General, and two, the Commissioner of the Bribery Commission. So, do you think it's right to give this power to both the Attorney General and the Bribery Commissioner, or is it better to restrict it with just the Attorney General?
You see, today, over the last 5-10 years, or from the time Mr. Amir was appointed Justice, the Minister of Justice or the Justice Attorney General has been a political figure more or less, most times. I won't say all. There have been very good, like Mr. Kamala Sabesan was a very good, he was a non-political man, he was good, but most were political animals, and they continue to be so. I don't think there's any difference between the Bribery Commission and the Attorney General today. If at all, there's no difference even with the Minister of Justice. All are politicians and they take political decisions. I don't care what the decision is, as long as it's the correct decision. Correct decision is fast forward action in finding people who have been accused of corruption, because their accusations must be either, it must be proved or disproved. So either they must come up clean or they must be made black. Remember, last time we had a real genuine cleanse up of Parliament was when the Bribery Commission functioned, and I remember during the time of Mrs. Bandaranaike, so many MPs, her own MPs, were found guilty of bribery and corruption.
Now, since you mentioned Mrs. Bandaranaike, I want to get to this. Now, there was a case when Mrs. Bandaranaike was not in power, that there was a special tribunal that was brought in. Is this High Court similar to a special instance like that?
No, because that was an appointment that was held to be bad because it was made by the President. But even that is all right. I have no objection, provided they are judicial animals and they act like judicially. Now that case, what happened was one of the most peculiar things happened. The judges were found by the Supreme Court with 3 eminent judges, one Tamil, one Sinhalese, one Burger. They found that the court has exceeded, there was bias on the part of the court because they were making silly noises over cups of tea, and they were found guilty. And what did Jayajawa do? He brought legislation to completely nullify a decision of the Supreme Court. First time it happened in Sri Lanka, where a Supreme Court decision was nullified, and the court of the special court that was appointed was, their order was confirmed, and Mrs. Bandaranaike was not given the right to appeal against that decision, and finally she was found guilty by a parliament that acted, where remember the TULF, the TNA or the Federal Party at that time voted against him. Mr. Tondaman voted against it. So that we must remember that Tamil parties have been at the proper time acted very democratically. They didn't go along with Lalita Thurat Mudali and the crowd. They went their way and they didn't vote for what was wrong.
Now, this the amendments to this Judicature Act comes about 3 years after this current administration came in, immediately after the local government election loss, and when there were calls growing louder for the implementation of the promises that they gave. Now, this matter is being taken up in court. The joint opposition has filed several petitions against the amendments that have been made to the Judicature Act, amendments that are to be made to the Judicature Act, and several members of the current administration, including ministers, have gone and requested to intervene in this petition as well. So, win or lose, whether these amendments take place or not, is this an attempt by the government just to say, well, we tried our best to bring in these amendments, but these people didn't allow us to bring it in. Is this a political ploy?
I hope not, because it looks political. Why did they wait 3 years? Why did they not prosecute? These are questions the government will have to answer, and I think the government knows that it's on a losing track, so that they want to make a fast comeback with this. Good, if they make it, but will they do it? Will the Attorney General's Department have people who are non-politicized and would look at issues objectively and find people, the right people, guilty? Have they got the courage to fight? I remember very well, many of the cases during Mahinda Rajapaksa's time were not handled by the Attorney General. They came to me, I remember I did every case, and one thing I told them clearly, which they adhered, was that they can't select counsel, junior counsel are my selections, and fees are not to be paid to anybody, so that no one can point a finger and say, you did it for money. And we did every case, we won every case. We won the case where the Army, Navy and Air Force were exonerated. We brought in I must say that Mahinda Rajapaksa supported us in bringing legislation to when the North and East were merged. We demerged it. We brought actions against I remember the case of the tsunamis, and I must say 3 of those lawyers are no longer living. That is Dr. Fo, that is H.L. De Silva, E.D. Vikramanayake and S.L. Gunasekara. They all did these cases without any fees whatsoever. And Manoli Jinadasa, I must remember, she came in for the last 2 cases. So, I mean, it was we did it for the country, we did it with pride, we won, we fought, and we were blamed by some, we were lauded by others, whatever it is. But remember, these cases had to be fought through the JVP. It was only the JVP was prepared to come forward at a time when Mahinda Rajapaksa himself was scared to bring this legislation, thinking that it might backfire.
Right.
On the contrary, I think JVP gained a lot of mileage by being active participants and the petitioners in those cases.
I think we are quickly running out of time. We might have time for one more question, Mr. Gomin. Today at around 9 o'clock in the morning, the UNP will meet, the Working Committee of the United National Party will meet. There are many rumors swirling about reforms that could take place. Do you actually think that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, as the leader of the United National Party, is capable of making substantial reforms to the United National Party?
I don't know whether it's Ranil Wickremesinghe, but I think his working committee is a bunch of hurrah boys who will only say, long live Ranil. So I don't know whether Ranil will even need do it, but if Ranil doesn't do it, I must say one thing. Ranil, unlike any other leader, is prepared to take a backstage if he is pressed to, because remember, he didn't contest Mahinda Rajapaksa, he put Fonseca, he put Sirisena. Both haven't turned out to be great successes for him, but I think Sirisena, if he continues to do this, at least will be remembered in history. Of course, he'll lose the election next time, but he'll be remembered in history for doing something good by taking away the powers of the president and the prime minister in regard to finance, and the fact that he appointed Mr. Kumarasamy as the governor instead of Mahendran. Now, where's Mahendran? Can Ranil Wickremesinghe bring him back even to Sri Lanka? I doubt it.
Well, Mr. Govindasri, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that's a wrap of Newsline for today. Take care and have a nice day.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.